Do you have some pieces of scrapbook paper that are exactly your dream pieces of scrapbook paper? Fear not. In just a few simple steps, your scrapbook paper could look like this. Watch along, craft along, and I'll show you how. Let's get started. Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet, and today I am going to try pimping up some craft paper. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with this craft paper. It's just not really a colour that I would necessarily use ordinarily. And it was a piece of material that was gifted to me. I didn't want to turn it away because, it's material at the end of the day and I knew I could do something with it. But I wouldn't normally work with this colour. So I'm going to see what I can do to make this more my style. And as I go, hopefully you'll get some ideas about pimping up any scrapbook paper that's in your stash, that maybe you bought a nice book of scrap paper and there was maybe 2 or 3 sheets that you weren't really in love with. So hopefully for things like that, this will give you a few ideas. I'm going to start by getting down some acrylic paint in contrasting colours. So because it's quite a yellow colour, I'm going to start with some blue. Okay, and now that has dried, well, it looks a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. It's a more interesting mess than the piece of paper I had before. So I'm now going to start applying more layers to this project. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a single sheet of napkin, place it over the top, and decoupage this piece of napkin over the paper. Okay, the paint dried really quickly, but the decoupage needed to dry overnight. This is now really crispy, lovely feel, and also it looks completely different to the original piece of craft paper. For those of you who thought I was a bit mad when I was throwing that paint about, I wasn't doing anything particularly well thought through. I just want to highlight how once you've decoupaged the napkin down, the different colours, the black, the blue, the different shades of blue in this case, they add variation to the background. Otherwise it would just be completely yellow with the napkin on top, which might be fine for you. I just wanted something a little bit more varied. So in short, you can skip the paint step if you're just happy to have the old piece of scrapbook paper as the background. I'm not going to do too much more to this. I'm just going to do a couple of stamps here and there. Got my little postmark stamp and I'm just going to stamp in a couple of places. Okay, you may also notice that I haven't stamped hard with this stamp. I've just gently pressed it to the paper just to give it a little bit of something, because ultimately I am going to cut this up. I don't need it to be a perfect image. Just want a little bit of ink there. Now obviously I could keep going with more layers, and when I cut it up to do tags, perhaps I will add more layers. But I do think this shows how just a few steps can completely transform a piece of scrapbook paper. So I do think it's worth looking at our slightly boring or less appealing scrapbook paper as a creative challenge. Rather than something just leave in the stash sitting in a drawer for years and years, we can do something with them that's appealing. So now that we've got this lovely piece of paper, I am going to make a tag with it just to demonstrate how it looks once it has been cut up. I'm not really convinced that I'm going to need any embellishment or very little embellishment once I've cut it up because the paper itself is so beautifully busy. Let's see how I get on. Okay, a really simple finish this tag. Some blue ink around the edges. And a little bit of fabric at the top. And that is it, because it's too pretty. I did back it with a piece of paper just to give it a little bit more sturdiness because the decoupage took a lot of the strength out of the card. But other than that, a very easy make once you've got your paper made. I'm just loving how much texture there is on this card and how actually when I think about it, I only had 3 simple steps. I put the paint down, let that dry, decoupage the napkin, let that dry, and just added a tiny bit of stamping here and there for a bit of extra texture, and that is it. So it is the kind of project that you've got other chores happening around the house and you haven't got time to sit for like an hour and do a project, which a lot of us just don't have. You could do a little bit, 10 minutes, let that dry, go and do your chores, go and do your admin, and then come back later, do your next layer, then go off and do your other chores. So it does lend itself to people who are quite busy as a craft project. I hope you found this interesting and inspiring. I have been actually quite surprised about how it's worked out. I did go completely mad with the paint in the beginning, just globbing it about because I did want a little bit of randomness to it. If you want to, you can be much more careful and considered about doing that. I was just, wanting to lose a bit of creative control and see where it led. Have you pimped your scrapbook paper? Because I know I'm not the only one out there who's done this. Let me know how it turned out in the comments. If you've got any tips or other methods that you want to share, please do so that other people can benefit from them. This is one of the most wonderful things of the community, that we can all share and benefit from each other's experience. I look forward to the next video and seeing you then. Thank you for watching.